going to have Beverly Ramsey. She's going to talk about converting food deserts into Oasis. And she works with the Wahila LLC Desert Research Institute. Welcome, Beverly, as our last presentation. Thank you.
But I do offer a tool for making Oasis, which actually stands for Organic Adaptive Agricultural Systems Integrated for Sustainability. Has really three components the way I want to talk about it today. One of them is the set of inputs and production, if you will, and then the outputs, because if you put those three together, then we should be able to build the systems that we can evolve into. So let's talk a bit about the inputs. Obviously, the goal has to be continual harvest for Oasis to be there, which means 12 months a year, which means we have to have the ability to do growing lights. So if you look at person power and the labor, what I experience is that both the elders and the school children lead the way, and the stories blend the two. Being able to start with members of our own community matter, being able to use the expertise we have, particularly now that solar has gotten so simple to use that we can put it on top of some of these little boxes that we're calling container units. But the focus needs to be local. The inputs are extremely important. Seeds we've talked about so much today, I need to say nothing. And Scott got us started with thinking about local, nourished, organic soils. And as a soils person, I cannot tell you how important it is to pay attention to soil organic matter. What we're trying to do from a design standpoint is to deal with production 12 months a year, to deal with vertical growing arrays so that you can go up, not just out. Container housed, and think of a trailer or think of a container box for storage. Community focused, and visions that say, what are you going to grow and how are you going to grow it? And the lists there are not all encompassing, but I will tell you the soil trays, being able to pay attention to diurnal cycles, because plants need to rest too. Just because we have the LED lights doesn't mean we have to have them on 24 hours a day. Most of us in our communities have some background with mushrooms, and certainly with the mycelia that read to those. We're discovering more and more about how they're important and how to use them. I would reference for you Paul Stemmett's work out at Fungi Perfecti in Washington. Here's one diagram of roof solar arrays and then what would be on the inside of this container. And they are listed as 3-tier and 2-tier based on the height that the plants have to have between the lights and themselves, but also some preparation area. So what are the objectives? The objectives are simple. How do we optimize these soil-based containerized systems with the needs assessment we have that are in the community? And then how do we train ourselves to do it and maintain that so that we've got some real balance involved? We want to evaluate what we're getting out of it. We want to learn as we're going along. We want to be able to support the community in developing this strategy that we can use, using Oasis as part of the food security plan. As I said, I've got a real prejudice towards soil. We've done a lot of evaluation of hydroponics versus soils. The short story is more expensive, and we don't know how to make these plant interactions work as nearly as well as Mother Nature does. So the costs are higher, the labor's higher, and the day-to-day efforts in trying to deal with control systems as you're working these farms are actually much higher. Trying to deal with energy off the grid, whether you've got geothermal or you've got solar or you're using traditional sources, all of those things are important to be able to do. We want to be able to monitor. You do need some data because you're not going to improve if you don't see where you stand. We want to be able to deal with water consumption, and we want to maximize reuse. And don't believe what everybody tells you. In the upper right-hand corner there is saffron. And saffron comes from crocus, and you're not supposed to be able to grow them indoors, and we can. So the whole point is, from an output standpoint, being able to sustain the economics as well as the, if you will, energy and protein that we're growing. We've got to be able to look at what do we do with these materials. Well, I'm selfish. I really think we ought to be feeding our own communities first. So we're going to talk about those components, and then we're going to talk about markets that we could use as trade or economic benefit. It gives me a minute. Obviously, schools and clinics are important. Being able to do these where there are elder care facilities, where you can get the stories if they're not able to help you work it, but they can absolutely tell you the stories that allow you to keep going. But we do require other kinds of things, and I'm not going to de-emphasize what you need to do from the out of doors as well, including things like honey and pollinating plants. But you've got to be able to look at the assessment, and very much Jane's comments to be able to deal with not just crop yield, but food yield was a real help to us. Beyond the events in our families, there are those markets out there. Some of them, if you're using containerized growing, mean that you can do farmers market in the middle of the winter. The capability to support our own restaurants, our own convenience stores, our gourmet outlets are always fun. So if you look at it, the whole Oasis idea is we can actually expand parts of this in such a way that we can grow 12 months a year, we can grow things that are both traditional and new, and from that standpoint, it is a community value. Thank you.